Great to see you. How are you?
I am fine. Tell me, how is it in the campaign, and what are the main issues? What do you highlight? So what are the main topics now?
To the surprise of the skeptics, it's getting traction. People are disappointed after 8 years of Rama's government, getting stuck, not moving forward in the European integration process. The economics dominate for more than 5 years now. The main concerns are rule of law, the fight against corruption and organized crime, which the resolution highlights very well, the draft resolution, but also the European Council decisions. And so economics are dominating. Pandemics is playing a role, but not as important as one could expect compared to what it is playing in other societies. So the main worries are economic, the economic situation, cost of living, unemployment, and emigration. The second thing is DP has really focused in a very concrete way on European integration as a top national priority for the country. And the third thing I wanted to bring up with you is to ask you to please, I know how difficult the conditions are, make every effort you can to bring the largest number possible of EPP observers, EPP parliamentary group observers to the elections on the 25th of April. The eyes of the world will be here. If there is one major achievement we have now booked is that everybody understands how important these elections are going to be for Albania, and in particular for Albania's European future, but also for the country as a whole. I'm not going to dwell on the problems, because you know them, the same problems, but worse this time. The good news is that, and it's really good news, is that the people have had enough. So what we see, what we feel, but what we also measure through objective surveys is an unstoppable desire for change. Now our objective is to translate that into votes and to make sure that the people go, cast their votes, and the votes are counted. And regardless of all these challenges, my main request to you is to please make every effort to have the largest possible number of EPP observers, and in particular EPP parliamentary group observers on the ground.
Thank you so much for the overview. And you know, for us as EPP politicians, it's always great to hear that we can pass a message that we are the body of future of real reforms, of those who are really are the guarantors for a future in integrated in European friendship. That's great to hear. And may I ask you about you know, for us in the classical countries, like for me in Germany, it's sometimes probably not imaginable how difficult things are for you to do campaign and manage things in these circumstances. So how is it in the practical terms now, with media, with all the activities there, with doing campaigning there? Do you really have enough, let me say, openness, support, readiness to consider and have enough access to everything on the infrastructure side, what you need? Or please give me a little bit an insight about how these practical things are working.
If you look at the elections part of the draft resolution and the Council's 15 conditions, you will see that they take clues from the ODIHR reports of the last elections. And the ODIHR reports of the last elections have highlighted some main problems. First amongst them is vote buying, which happens not anymore through the government structures, but it has been outsourced to organized crime groups. The second problem is the involvement of organized crime groups, which again in these elections are running their people in the Socialist Party list. In contrast to the last election, there is loud, almost daily reactions, declarations from for instance, from the US diplomats, US ambassador, and also, I should say, by the EU delegation, calling on parties to run clean lists. The third problem is the violation of the law when it comes to hiring people before elections. They have hired in the last 3 months 10,000 people. You know, when we left government in 2013, part of our reform was to make a smaller government, and we brought the total number of people on the payroll, including police, teachers and doctors, to 89,000 people. You know how many people this government is paying now? 182,000. For a population that has shrunk from the time when we were governing, we estimated there were about 3.2 million people living in the country, and now there are barely 2.7, maybe 2.6, because during Rama's government, almost 500,000 have emigrated, most of them to Germany. So he has used this as a tool to build a constituency, basically. And these are people that are not part of an efficient administration. Imagine, from 89,000 to 182,000. We had an earthquake, you know, in 2019 because there was this donors conference. So this is another way they're putting pressure on people. They're going to houses and saying, no, you're not going to get the money if you don't vote for us. And also manipulating the classification of damage. The first reports that have come in and that we have sent to the prosecutors are talking about crazy amounts, 200, 300 euros per vote, which means that a family of 4 voters would get up to 1,200 euros in order to vote.